Listen to me, you hillbilly punk who thinks the world's still round. I'm here to tell you it's not. It's flat!
He's an interesting guy, man, and he believes it. So, Kyrie, the Earth is flat, right? Yeah. So, whatever.
That's news.
That's news. Here we go.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones, obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
What have you discovered about the Fremen duck? Tell me. Why haven't we heard from you? My lord, I suspect so much. I think they are the allies we seek. They are strong, fierce. They do not give their loyalty easily or quickly. As you know, the Imperium has never been able to take a census of the Fremen. Everyone thinks that there are but few wandering here and there in the desert. My lord, I suspect an incredible secret has been kept on this planet. That the Fremen may exist in vast number. Vast. And it is they who control Iraqis.
Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship currently anchored over Ambroy, California, watching Mad Mike prepare to launch himself over the town with his research flat earth homemade rocket. Meanwhile, the Peanut Gallery is anchored over HBO headquarters in New York City, monitoring the responses to the Vice News FEIC segment, which ran on HBO tonight. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Markksargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. If you can't find it, you've been really, really distracted by a lot of really big Flat Earth headlines that are happening right now, but we'll get to those in a second. For those of you listening to this on YouTube and you want to hear the show live, as it happens, please go to Truth Frequency Radio for the latest schedule. Currently, this show is on Tuesday nights at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And if it is not November 21st, 2017, then you're not listening to it live and you're listening to a recording, which means if you call into the show tonight, it's going to be a partial call-in show because we do have a subject matter expert tonight. You're going to get voicemails. So that's fine. I will answer the voicemails, but you won't be able to talk to me live. So remember, if it's not the 21st, you call the number. It's just going to be ringing on my screen, but I'm not going to pick it up. There's not enough time in the day. Quote of the day from the Peanut Gallery. It doesn't take a lot of strength to hang on. It takes a lot of strength to let go. That's from J.C. Watts. Announcements. Who's got the announcements? I do. First off, tomorrow, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, The Secret Show, Patricia Steer's 200th episode. Can you believe that? She's been doing this that long. First one of 200 I know in the Flat Earth community. 200 episodes tomorrow, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be on it. There will be literally thousands of guests from this world and other dimensions. I don't know. Actually, there's a lot of people popping in, though, so don't be surprised. There's going to be a lot of cameos. I can't really give you a list of movies that had a lot of cameos. There's a few that come to mind, but I don't think I'm going to do it justice. There's going to be a lot of cameos tomorrow. So by all means, drop by and say hi, and I will be the first one to do it. In fact, I will preempt my... All right, can anybody hear me at the moment? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, so you can hear me, but am I on the radio?
Yes.
No.
I can hear you on the radio.
Okay, so we're back up.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, I don't know what that was. Okay, the last thing I was doing was thank you, Patricia, for making it to 200, I think. And then everything died. So So, tell you what we're gonna do. And the phone lines are not hooked up right now. I know everyone's calling at the moment, and we got some people in there, and so I don't know what happened, but we're just gonna keep moving along and pretend like the first 5 or 6 minutes didn't happen. So let's just news real quick. I want to say congrats to Flat Earth member Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics. As some of you may know, if you've been tracking the National Basketball Association here in the United States, the Flat Earth Boston Celtics are currently at the top of the league. They're 16-2. They're number one in the NBA right now. Kyrie Irving won in overtime last night, scored 47 points. He is totally a flat earther, and even the general manager, Danny Ainge, who's won a few championships himself, back with Larry Bird in the 80s, he said, you know what? There may be something to this flat earth thing. You know how it goes. If you're winning whatever superstitious belief, whatever you're doing, if you're rubbing honey on the side of your basketball shoes, people will be like, oh, it's totally cool. I'm totally into that. So whatever. Hey, great. Fantastic. All the thing, because we won't get a second chance at this. Best of luck and Godspeed to Mad Mike Hughes, who's going to be flying up in the Flat Earth rocket this Saturday out in the Mojave Desert, Route 66. This Saturday, November 25th. I don't know if any news media are going to cover it live, but fantastic, great. I hope it goes well for him. I hope you do not auger that thing into the ground like a drill. I really am, and super happy for you that you've got Flat Earth all over the side of that rocket. So, does the fate of Flat Earth hinge with this? No, not necessarily. But, it's still kind of a cool thing. The other thing, and I know you guys are trying to call in right now, I do not have the phone lines currently hooked up, so whatever number you're dialing probably won't bounce off of us yet. I'm going to wait during the first break before I attach the secondary phone line because of what just happened now. And there was the last thing I was going to mention was, I'm sorry, the website. So currently, I know the Peanut Gallery's talking to me. Yes, that's where you left off. Thank you. Oh, by the way, yeah, funny, Flat Earth News. No, I'm not going to read that on the air. The enclosedworld.com is currently under construction. That is going to be rebuilt. And so you guys check it out when you get a chance. It's going to be super cool. It doesn't look like much at the moment, but it needed some revamping. And so a special Flat Earth member who is not going to be named at the moment, maybe he'll take credit for it later, is going to rebuild the site for me because I just don't have the time or honestly the skill set really anymore because I'm doing the whole Flat Earth thing. And before I bring in, because remember, this is a subject matter night, and we're going to bring in, what am I going to title this? The Industrial Vacuum Expert. How's that? That sounds pretty good. We're not going to bring you in yet. Not yet, but we will in shortly. I know we've wasted like 5 minutes. That's okay. We got a couple hours. So hopefully this won't affect too much. And I'm sorry for the disconnect, you guys. Anyone listening to this on YouTube won't hear the dead air that went on for 4 or 5 minutes. But that's fine. These things happen. I wanted to mention real quick when it comes to haters. Jaron did a wonderful thing recently where he was talking about there's doers and then there's armchair quarterbacks. People that criticize no matter what you try to do, no matter what your intentions are, there's always people out there that are hating on stuff. And I want to tell you a little story, and I know you guys are going to groan because initially I'm going to say, because it's from a video game standpoint. Because as you guys know, I used to play video games for a living. And even in the happy, fluffy world of video games, there's still haters. And we're talking recreation, the most enjoyable form of recreation I can think of, unless you count sex, but that's a whole other thing. But let me tell you a quick video game story. Back in the day, and this is relevant because World of Warcraft just celebrated its 13th year anniversary just recently, just a couple days ago. And I've been playing for about 13 years. And some years ago, I was trying to go for a really cool pinnacle epiphany type moment in the world of video games, which is known in the World of Warcraft as a realm first. They don't do it anymore, but what would happen is you'd go into a game. As soon as a new expansion rolled out, you would be like the first one to get a certain skill set in something, the first one to get mining, or the first one to take down a boss, or there are all these cool things. But there was only one. You can only do one, and when you got this thing, it was announced server-wide to everybody that you were the first one. You're like, so Markksargent has achieved this, and everyone, didn't matter what they were doing, didn't matter what chat room they were in, everyone got that announcement on inside the game. And so I was trying for one of these. I was trying for Realm First, and you guys can look it up, in Pandaria, and I know this is geek talk here, for skinning. And that means I would max out my level of skinning as fast as I could. As soon as the expansion went online, middle of the night, we'd play literally till sunup, and someone would try to get a Realm First. And I played the beta, and everything was going great. And so the expansion was launched, and I run in there, and I go down to this far end of this map, and I'm working it. I'm basically skinning tigers. No offense to the vegetarians. They're digital tigers. No real tigers were harmed during this achievement. And I'm cranking it up, but then the diminishing law of returns was kicking in, and I just couldn't get high enough to finish it because the things that I was working on weren't a high enough level. And so there's going, great, I'm going to lose this because I don't know what to do. I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to pull this thing off. So I was going, all right, well, you know what? I'm not going to get the Realm First. So I'm just going to wander around up in these hills and just see what's up there. And why not? It's 4 a.m. Why not check this out? So I go up into the hills, and I'm just wandering around, and it's up. You guys want to know where it was? It was where the first black market house was. And when I was up there, I look over, and there's a pasture with these stupid little goats that happen to be just high enough for me to do this. And so I killed like 8 or 9 of them immediately. Markksargent has achieved this Realm First. And you're probably saying, where are you going with this boring video game story? It is because when I got this and everyone was announced this Realm First, almost immediately, the first 3 or 4 people that messaged me, because they knew it was me and they have your address, your little chat address, they messaged me with hate almost immediately because they were envious, because they were jealous. And it's like, oh, you hacker, all sorts of profanity, you cheated, boo, loser. I mean, these guys were actually upset. I'm going, look, I sought out to do this thing. It was a fun moment for me. And here you guys are. You're just hating on me because you wanted to do it first. And I get it. It's the spirit of competition. I get why people hate. And there's a reason. You can put this on a t-shirt. Envy is one of the 7. There's a reason for that. And I get it. Apply this to Flat Earth to the nth degree. Everybody knows that Flat Earth hasn't been touched. It's a virgin market out there when it comes to just about everything regarding it. And I understand why people get jealous, and I understand why people hate. But come on. It's still a great community. There's going to be people that are going to do bigger things. I put in the legwork. I have. So you want to hate on me for that? Hey, fine. It just shows how small you are. Anyway, that's my little anti-troll speech. Let's bring in the guests, shall we? All right, I'm going to do a quick announcement of him. Quick intro. Oh, boy. Did I already screw up the thing? So Jerry DeMaz, hopefully I got that right, a.k.a. the Globe Vandal on YouTube, who worked as a maintenance repair technician for several years in a semiconductor manufacturing plant, maintaining and repairing ultra-high vacuum systems. And there's a reason I brought him on, and the reason is because, in Flat Earth, we talk about vacuum, the Earth and space, supposedly the infinite vacuum of space, a lot. And so I wanted to get his opinion on vacuums in general. And I know we've only got 7 or 8 minutes to the first break because I screwed up the thing, and it wasn't my fault. I swear to God, the system kicked off, and hopefully it won't kick off again when I do the phones at the first break. So, Jerry, all that being said, and you've been very patient with me sitting through the dead air and the announcements and that fun video game story. Are you there?
What? I think I just...
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Come on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So let's get right into it. I don't know if we can let's get into the vacuum thing in a bit. How did you get into Flat Earth?
I got to kind of start a few years back. The first time I ever was even introduced to the idea, ironically, was the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I was off on a trip back then. I was working for a car stereo manufacturer called Phoenix Gold, we manufactured car audio amplifiers and things like that. And we were at I know this is gonna suck, but I was at Daytona Beach spring break. And
I've never been to one of those, so it sounds fun.
Yeah. So anyway, on the day before it started, we decided to head on down and go over there. And NASA, not NASA, but Kennedy Space Center, we were in the auditorium, and they actually brought up the flat Earth themselves, and saying, yeah, there's people out there that actually still believe in the flat Earth, and they think we faked the moon landing. And I thought that was kind of odd that they would mention that. And this was back in like 01 or 02.
Wow.
So this is quite a while ago, but way before there was really anything going on. So I walked around, and at the time I was a fabricator. I was a new product development manager and a fabricator, where I would design these ultra high-end audio systems. I'd build demo vehicles, 6-figure demo vehicle stereo systems.
Sure.
And so anyway, I knew a little bit about fabricating. And I took one look at that mock-up lunar module, and I thought, holy hell, who designed and built this? It looked like a joke. I just was in awe looking at that. And then you go and look at the rocket, and it's really impressive. That was the booster rocket was a completely different story. It was like you had two different teams on those things. The rockets were phenomenal, massive, huge. But then when it got over to the lunar module, it's like, got to credit Jake Gibson for his homeless tweaker shelter, because that's what it looked like, man. Yep. Well, fast forward a couple of years, I went to work for another audio manufacturer, and this gentleman was actually a engineer for tube amplifiers. And he hands me a video and says, yeah, we didn't land on the moon. And I laughed at him. I said, are you kidding me? I just thought he was a nut job.
Right.
But the only reason why I gave any credence to it was because, he was extremely well educated. And, it wasn't your typical weirdo trying to, pass off some freaky conspiracy theory.
Right.
So I watched the video. And once again, this was probably 05, I want to say. So this was well before the movement ever hit. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if it was the funny thing happened on the way to the moon video. It was so long ago. I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
I just simply remember that it debunked a whole bunch of stuff. Most of the points we already know about.
Right.
And so then I thought, well, I didn't put two and two together that, hey, maybe the Earth's flat, or maybe they were, doing that to give us a fake shot of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and about 3 years ago, I started thumbing through the moon landing stuff and revisited it. And then that just led into Matt Powerland's video, and of course yours and Shazwar Booty's. And I started watching all that, and they had some really good, valid points. And I thought to myself, wow, there's actually something to this.
Yeah.
But I kept it to myself, and I just kept researching, because I wasn't about to go tell anyone and make myself look like an idiot.
Nope.
And lose any credibility I had.
Right.
And I wasn't going to go forth with it until I could have an intelligent conversation on the topic.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you first find Christ, when you become a Christian or something, you get all excited and you want to share the message, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just too early, but the passion there was definitely there, but I just didn't want to come across wrong. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Oh,
and
cool.
Then I just kept going from there. And then I eventually, when I felt confident enough, decided to make a couple of videos. I have a full-time job, so I don't have a lot of time to make the videos I'd like to.
Yeah.
So I made a few short ones where I saw a lot of infighting going on I didn't like, and so I thought, hey, there's got to be a quicker way to get the message out there that's a little more light-hearted and can still state the facts, but in a humorous way. And so I came up with, you remember those Bud Light commercials, The Real Men of Genius?
Mm-hmm.
Those were always my favorite. I just loved them. And so I decided to do a spoof on those. So I started in on a series for those. And one of them was on the lunar module landing. And I did it to the music, and I imitated the voice and everything. And like the lunar module thing, not the lunar module, but the Curiosity rover on Mars.
Oh, okay.
And so what I did was I took all the pictures of like the walrus bones, the lichen, the lemming, the railroad ties, all the different evidences that were in NASA's photos, and I just turned it into a bit of a comedy. So go in there and check that out sometime.
Okay.
That's not what I'm on here for today. But anyway, there's my journey. That's how I got to here.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And yeah, I think the one you were mentioning was A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon by, geez, was that Bart Sabrell? Was he the first guy to help put that thing together over in the UK? And yeah, you're right. That if you believe in the moon missions, if you believe in the Apollo programs, you got to see that film because it shoots. Now, does it absolutely prove a flat Earth? No. No, as a matter of fact, I half think it was one of their backup plans that let them fall back. So like even if you hated the Apollo program, you'd look at that little movie and say, well, yeah, but they faked it from Earth orbit, which means it's still a globe, which was clever. That part I thought was clever because you don't leak. That film doesn't get leaked out anywhere. That film is put under lock and key. Anyway,
yeah, that one really makes me wonder how that got quote unquote leaked.
Exactly. All right, we're going to be going to our first break. We're going to come back with our industrial vacuum expert, and we're going to go over everything that is vacuums and why it just doesn't work with space and everything that's ridiculous about it. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 3 minutes, provided I don't crash the whole system.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. It is subject matter night, but we are going to take calls in the third segment. So if you guys want to call in, that number is 720-897-6111, 720-897-6111, or 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998. If you're in the UK, it's 44-203-393-2871. These are all on the Truth Frequency Radio website. And if you want to call in and not talk to me and just kind of hang out and listen on your phone, that number is 641-793-7117. We have subject matter expert, industrial vacuum expert, actually, Jerry. Jerry, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Let's get right into it. So talk to me about vacuums because you know, and you know, the general... The reason why this is kind of important is that lots of people in the flat Earth community, and you heard this, have said that, where's the bleeding edge of space? Where does the edge of the atmosphere stop and the amazing power of the vacuum of space begin? And nobody can really define this. And what we're hoping that you can really do is clarify what the levels of vacuum are, and what they're measured in, and the power of them. So what do you got? What led you down this path when in your professional career? What resonated with you when it came to flat Earth and vacuums?
First of all, I started taking a critical look at the ISS and the lunar module both.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to see what systems they had in place for those, for the vacuum environment. And as I've been inspecting things, I mean, like the most popular one is definitely that floppy door on the ISS.
Yeah.
I can't help but I gotta believe there's got to be a stronger. I keep wanting to believe there's a stronger door on that. I mean, that's just absolutely ludicrous. I mean,
Right.
in the vacuum world, you get laughed out if you walked into the fab with something to seal a chamber up with that. That's just.
I mean, I'm sure it's a secondary door too.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but the point is, why is it there at all?
There's no need for it.
No.
Because there's no window on the door.
No. So
what's the point of it?
right. If you have a primary hatch, why do you need that thing? It's I can't understand. It's like a door cozy. That's really all it is.
I know. Exactly. I just kind of want to get into so people understand what vacuum is. And to give you a bearing, to give the people a bearing of just how radically strong the vacuum in space is supposed to be. Like, I'm more familiar with Tor because that's what we worked with. And just to give you a little bit more background about me, I was the guy that actually repaired the valves and maintained the valves and the vacuum chambers and worked through the computer systems that controlled them. So I have a pretty clear understanding of how vacuum works. But the atmosphere that you and I stand in is 760 torr.
Okay.
Have you ever taken a vacuum and just put it on your arm and flip the thing on and watch what happens to your skin?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I think we've all done that, right?
I think we've all done that. Yeah.
Well, that measures at about 600 torr.
Okay.
So the smaller the number, the higher the vacuum, okay?
Okay, so smaller is better, and Torr is at T-O-R-R?
T-O-R-R.
Okay. Power of a vacuum is measured in Torr, probably named after somebody named Torr.
Yes, it is, actually.
Perfect.
And,
all right.
And we've all seen these tests. I'm assuming a great many of us have seen the test on YouTube where people throw marshmallow in a little, glass chamber and they'll vacuum it out. Well, these little pumps, they're just a rough, low vacuum pump. These are nothing even remotely near what the vacuum of space is supposed to be. So you've got basically 5 different categories of vacuum, and one of them's rough or low vacuum, and that goes down to 1 torr. And then you've got a medium vacuum, which goes from 1 torr to 10 to the minus 3 torr.
Oh, so you can actually go into negative numbers with Torr.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's no different than negative below freezing.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. And so people go, oh, I'm in a perfect vacuum. And it's like, no. In reality, perfect vacuum's not possible because it all has to do with the relative amount of atoms within that given space that determines the level of vacuum.
Okay.
So then you have high vacuum, which is 10 to the negative 3 torr to 10 to the negative 7 torr. And then there's ultra high vacuum, which is where I was in, 10 to the negative 7 torr to 10 to the negative 11 torr.
Wow.
Okay. And then there's an extreme high, which is negative 11 on down.
Okay.
So now, you want to guess what the vacuum is purported to be at the space station?
At the ISS?
Yes.
I would imagine to be in the negative range.
Yes.
So -5?
-7.
-7. Oh, I wasn't too far off. Okay.
So ultra high. Yeah, it's in the negative high.
Okay.
Ironically, I did do some research today to see, and I actually found a NASA spec for their developing of their gaskets and their O-rings for their doors.
Right.
And they were only speccing to -8, which is interesting because when you engineer anything, you always over-engineer it. You always add an extra area of safety in there, which I thought was kind of funny that they didn't do that. I mean, you do that amplifiers or anything you build.
So the hatches on the ISS, which apparently they never close ever, for filming reasons, are only rated at -8 torr.
According to the document that I saw and
Okay.
that I read on the NASA.
All right.
So I'm just going to preface it with that.
Okay.
So, so now I don't know if you remember, but back in about 1960, before the supposed moon landing, there was a gentleman named Jim LeBlanc, and he actually had a spacesuit failure in a vacuum-tested chamber.
Okay.
Very interesting results. We know everything boils at much lower temperatures under vacuum.
Right.
Well, he had a small leak in his suit, and he fell backwards. He could feel the saliva on his tongue boiling, and then blacked out. And this happened like really quick. And this wasn't anywhere near the level of vacuum that they were in space.
Wow.
And they repressurized the chamber fairly fast, which surprises me because you usually would get bends, just like scuba divers, from repressurizing that fast. Wow. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
Huh.
Anyway, so
okay.
Now if you can imagine that if you were in space and you got a leak, you'd be in a hell of a lot of trouble. I mean,
instantly.
It wouldn't be no 45 seconds like they try and tell you. It would be instant. You'd be dead before you could bat your eye.
Because the vacuum would basically lower the boiling temperature of your bodily fluids to the point where you would be boiling. You'd be basically boiling at 98.6. And
yes, and the more vacuum you get, that there is a line that you can. There's a graph that you can plot that actually shows the boiling point just keep going down, clear down to freezing, to like 32 F.
Oof.
It's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
So anyway, so now, like, I worked in the semiconductor industry. We did government contracts. We did gallium arsenide wafers, which are high-speed stuff that you can't get from like Intel because they're using silicone substrate, where we're using gallium arsenide, which allowed us to have our tolerances much tighter and do higher frequency stuff. So anyway, when we would pump down those chambers, an interesting thing I started to put together after being in the flat earth was we used three different pumps on a system.
Okay.
So you would first start out with a roughing pump that would get it down to about 1 torr, somewhere around there. And then we'd step over to like a turbo pump, which would then kick on. And that would get it down to like, you could get it down to like -7 torr on that.
Okay.
And then you would have to swap over to what they call a cryo pump. And there are turbo pumps that will pump down deeper, but they get exponentially larger and heavier and just ridiculous. So then you actually have to switch over to a cryo pump or a cryogenic pump, which basically is a frozen carbon filter. And what happens is that the remaining particles in that chamber bounce around and they get lodged into that carbon filter and actually bring the vacuum to a lower point. The reason they have to do that, Mark, is because the mechanical methods are no longer any good.
There isn't enough horsepower in the world to suck out what you need out of that.
No, not at all. So they have to go to that. And basically, that's what they call a viscous flow when it's down at the lower levels of roughing pump.
Okay.
And then there's a Knudsen flow, and then it gets to the molecular flow. And so those are the reasons for the different stages of pumping. And interestingly enough, like if you were to accidentally open one valve when it wasn't time, like let's say for instance the turbo pump, they weighed anywhere from 800 to 900 pounds for one turbo pump. And this is, now mind you, this is for like a 2-3 cubic foot max internal air volume that you were trying to vacuum.
Right.
And these things would spin super high revolutions. And if you accidentally opened that up too early while that thing was spinning,
Yeah.
it would rip it to shreds. You would hear the loudest bang you ever heard. It's just insane, right?
Wow.
So anyway, with these pumps, the reason why I'm going into this is because you see them, like, for instance, they're trying to tell us they use parachutes to land the Curiosity rover on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're in a vacuum. How the heck's it slowing that thing down with a parachute? It's not possible. How are they pushing off against anything with blasters or jets or anything? There's no atmosphere there to push off of, period.
Sure.
End statement.
Right.
So, I mean, that right there is enough proof for me. But
I would agree. Well, let me ask you a quick question. If one, you're stating that it is extremely hard. We cannot even create an absolute vacuum down here on the ground, no matter what technology we're using.
No.
One. And two, it just all of a sudden occurred to me that because, you know, we're talking about submarines, you know, they're in a pressurized environment, but, you know, it's the atmosphere trying to go the other way. But the thing is, that's a very, very, very heavy steel environment there. Whereas you're talking about the space station, which is super light, you know, very flexible metal. So how is that counteracting the massive power of the vacuum outside of it?
Yeah, because it's basically the same situation as deep sea, only in the inverse. The pressure is going to push it outwards instead of the atmosphere pushing it inward. The inside's pushing it outward. So it's the same. It's just the inverse scenario.
Wow.
So it's every bit as strong.
Wow. And the
other people jumping out of those and going around in their pressurized suit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
They're keeping their butt inside that vessel. And another thing that I noticed as I'm looking, I tried to spend a bit of time today and look around at the space station. And I saw so many holes today, I was just flabbergasted. In an airplane, they have, I don't know a lot about airplanes, but I know they have redundant systems.
Yeah, of course.
Now, how much more would you need a redundant system in space than you would in an airplane?
Oh, yeah. You need and we're talking military. The military always builds in massive redundant systems.
Yeah.
When it comes to that.
It's exponentially more important.
Also, which I thought was interesting, and we talked about this when the industrial valve expert called in 2 years ago now. Hard to believe, time flies. Where he was saying that, look, when it comes to the tolerances, when you're building the hatches, when you're speccing out the hatches on those ISS, you need a machine shop on board. He goes, every Navy ship has a full-blown machine shop on board so that they can make just about any part they need. And he goes, here's the thing. Machine shops use a ton of power. They're extremely smoky. They generate, all sorts of waste. And the other thing is, he goes, they're really, really heavy. The machines you're using in a machine shop are tons and tons of solid metal. And he goes, where is this? Where is this thing on the ISS? How are they getting the parts? How are they getting everything? Because you were talking to me the other day and saying that the tolerances are extremely fine, and it's no joke. You can't just mail it up there. You just can't wrap it in brown paper and shoot it up to that thing if it's there. Right.
And if you look at the way they claim they're generating their oxygen, is basically they're using electrolysis in water. Okay, now let's think about this. They've got to store the water for this, first of all. Second of all, if you don't use a salt or a potassium base to that water, it's going to take a lot longer to generate that oxygen. Number one. Number two, where are they storing all that water when they say they're so shy on water up there to begin with, so much that they got to recycle their toilet pee and drink that?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then the process basically separates the hydrogen from the oxygen. And they say that they're releasing the hydrogen into space and pressurizing the oxygen into a container. That's as per NASA.
You think they'd want to show off that system?
No. Yeah, and you know where it is? This is a funny part. It's like right by the cupola, which we'll get into a minute. Mm-hmm. And it's a small section. It reminds me of the Wizard of Oz, right? It's like, we'll just make a door and we'll write Oxygen Supply Center. You know, that's basically what they did. You can't see what's inside there. It's basically a black box.
Right.
You can't see what's behind there. And it's only like, from what I can gather, maybe 5 foot by 5 foot, being generous, you know, as far as what I can see. Who knows how deep it goes, but it's not that big. And so how are they generating enough oxygen for everyone to breathe based off that little space? And then also, every time they open that space hatch, the way they're decompressing it, according to what my research has shown me, is they're throwing it through a vent with a muffler on it to silence the sound.
Right.
And they're outgassing it out into space. So now you've lost all that oxygen that was in there, right?
Right.
And you've got this system that's only generating oxygen, not nitrogen, because we know in the atmosphere we've got 78% nitrogen, and we're 21% oxygen, with like the rest being argon and carbon. You're like at 0.9% argon and 0.03 on carbon. Mm-hmm. So where are they getting this nitrogen? So that would facilitate or create the necessity to have a nitrogen tank in there, because they must have nitrogen in there, because they also, before their spacewalk, are said to breathe only pure oxygen in that chamber. So if you're following their whole narrative, that means there's got to be nitrogen in there somewhere being supplied. But on that whole video, I don't see any room for tanks.
Right. Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And the average person doesn't realize that we're breathing. We'll just round it up to 80, 4 parts nitrogen and 1 part oxygen. So where the heck are you getting the nitrogen from? Because if you're breaking down water, you're only getting hydrogen and oxygen. So and honestly, and a pure oxygen environment, as you know, is really tricky, because one, it's very, very flammable.
Actually, it's not. In and of itself, it's not flammable.
Okay.
Hydrogen is, but oxygen itself will not ignite.
It won't ignite. But if you have a flame, but you don't want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying it'll oxidize things and help them to burn much more rapidly.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying it's like hydrogen where it's explosive. Where you can just touch a match to it. But the pure oxygen environment is no joke either. It's but you got a great point. Where the heck is the nitrogen coming from? In fact, I don't even know, until you had mentioned it, I don't even know how you make nitrogen if you had to synthesize it.
I haven't had time to look that one up yet.
That's a good one. Somebody look that up. How in the heck would you add nitrogen? Because you'd want to do that.
I know they'd have supply tanks of it, but I just don't know how it's made.
That's really interesting.
So now let me tell you about this other thing, the valves, right? I'm just going to cap on those because I used to rebuild them.
Okay.
And I'm here to tell you there's no valve that's going to last a year without being repaired. And there's got to be a whole lot of valves in that place. I mean, a lot. But I don't see one single visible valve in there. Not one. I don't see it on the inside, and I don't see it on the outside.
Right. So where are they?
Where are they? And, I listened to the other vacuum show because I didn't want to hit the exact same points.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
So you've got pneumatic, right? You've got hydraulic, but you've also got the linear actuator, the motorized electric motor version, and then they also have a manual one that you can physically move as well. So definitely it's either going to be a nano electric type actuator or a manual one. But either way, you're going to want redundancy in that, because if that valve takes a dump, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You are screwed. You're not just...
and you never see anyone even trying to repair or maintain these valves ever.
Oh, not at once. and you have to replace the seals on them. You got to, like, you'll have to reabrase them sometimes, and there's usually like a U channel that the seal goes in, and then or the O-ring that it would go in, and then that meshes up. Well, there's sliding mechanisms and bolts and screws, and those bolts and screws do strip out. They do strip out, and they need to be repaired. The seals need to be repaired. You got to have grease there. I don't see tool sets anywhere around there to service that either. So I don't see the valves. I don't see the tool sets. I don't see O-rings. They never show you any of that. And then the way they explain most of their technology on the ISS is always, they just say, oh, here's, like, for instance, the oxygen thing. Oh, we just use electrolysis, blah, 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 and here's how you get the oxygen, and we outgas the thing. But they don't go into any more detail beyond that.
No.
It's just more, hey, trust us, it works, we're NASA.
It's just a machine that's behind the door.
Exactly.
With the sticker on it. That's it. Oh my Lord! Oh my God! So let me ask you this, and I know you got other things I want to cover. I want to ask you this before the break because I want this statement from you. In your opinion, is there any way, in your professional opinion, is there any way that the ISS can function as advertised by NASA?
No way.
No way. There's nothing even remotely true about anything they're saying up there.
I mean, there's systems that would definitely work. But wait till we get into the cupola.
Okay. All right. So go on. We got 3 minutes, actually 2.5 minutes before the break.
I can cover the cupola in that time.
Okay. What do you got?
Okay. There's 7 windows in the cupola. I think most of us have probably seen the video of the shutters, which I think looks highly suspect the way they move. It's supposed to be mechanical, and she's turning it really slow, and it's moving on its own whether she turns it or not. So it's not like a very linear system in its movement with turning the handle. But anyway, they went back and researched the guy that actually designed it, who now owns a shop that builds something completely different. But he said basically the only thing that seals off all 7 windows, all 7 turn keys that open and close that, which is directly connected to the outside at a -8 torr, is 2 tiny little O-rings. Now, mind you, you've got to be able to service this thing, and it's been up there for, what, almost 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years. And
these are moving part O-rings. These things would need to be replaced all the time. I could throw out a number, but it would be a guesstimate, but probably every 2 to 3 weeks if you're opening and closing it a lot.
2 to 3 weeks?
Depending on how much they opened and closed it.
Wow.
And that's even considering those tiny little O-rings would hold up to that high a vacuum, which I'm telling you, there's no way you're going to have an O-ring that is dynamic that's going to hold at that vacuum. You have to compress that O-ring pretty solid to keep it from losing vacuum.
Wow. Incredible.
Or losing pressure in the cupola. There's no way. No way. And then there's 7 windows, and you're telling me that out of 14 O-rings, none of them have ever failed in 20 years.
Right. Yeah. Good. Excellent. All right. Hold that thought, because we're going to go to the break, and we're going to come back with industrial vacuum expert Jerry. And I didn't ask you, where are you calling from, Jerry?
St. George, Utah.
St. George, Utah. Perfect. 3 minutes. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You might miss something.
Truth Frequency Radio.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Major Kong. Major Kong. I'm ready to target the ICBM complex at Laputa. Markksargents to CRM discriminators? What's cooking on the threat board? Nothing. All right, tell you what you better do, old buddy. You better give Elmo and Charlie a flash, man. Bump everything up to condition written. Stand by tomorrow on the base.
Major Kong.
Major Kong.
Hey, what about Major Kong?
Clear and plain and coming through fine.
What about
It's great to be fine.
What about Major
What's happened? You see the string in my leg, Scar.
What about Major
I never told you.
Hey, what about Major Kong?
Welcome back to Strange World, part 3 of 4. Special thanks to Chip Baker for that soundtrack. And I've got to lead with a quick homage to the ghost of David Cassidy. I was kind of joking around with the peanut gallery earlier. May have made an off-taste joke. And because of that, the show crashed and burned for the 3-4 minutes. And we, Peanut Gallery and I, joke about that all the time. It's like, you don't make fun of people that recently died, because they come back to bite you. I think it did. I mean, literally, he's going, nope, he's gonna get you. It's going, he is not. And next thing you know, dead air. It's like fantastic, super great. On another note, don't forget that tomorrow I will be on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, The Secret Show, Patricia Steers' 200th episode. Wednesday, it's tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. There's literally going to be 10,000 cameos, including potentially the ghost of David Cassidy. See, he's probably going to go after the system now. But that was tongue in cheek. Don't kill me, David. Anyway, we're on with subject matter expert Jerry from Utah. We're talking about industrial vacuums, and we left off with the ISS being a physical impossibility because all the things they advertise up there, there's way too many moving parts, way too many high pressure systems for this thing to be a reality. Yes, you believe that is true, right? That the ISS is a piece of junk. There's no way it can do what it's they say it can do.
No.
Cool. Where do you want to go from here?
Like when I was at the fab and I was doing maintenance repair work, we had a team literally 24/7. We never closed down. And we all had our own tool sets that we were assigned to. And it was because those things are very temperate. They're very, what do you want
finicky?
to call it? They're finicky, yeah.
Oh.
They're very finicky.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be ready to fix those things quick, especially up there if something's going to go wrong. Right. And
I mean, if you, like, for example, let's say you were hired to go up there like Bruce Willis in Armageddon.
Yeah.
And to be a machine shop guy up there, right? I can't even imagine what you would have to bring with you just so you'd feel somewhat competent to do what you needed to be done. Yeah?
Yeah. And the funny part is it's like they just keep inventing stuff to do things, right? Oh, right. You got to go to the bathroom. Oh, well, we got a thing that turns the stuff into this and that. And it's just a brush over how it does it. They never get into the real science of how it works,
right?
Most of the time. But you start, I started looking at those solar panels today. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, how big are they? And then I started, well, how much does it take just to power one pump? And then I'm thinking, okay, you got the pump, you got the electrolysis, you got the lights, you got the, you got the oxygen. There's so many things to power up.
Right.
I just can't even fathom the load on the electricity.
Oh my God. And the daily maintenance. You know what always bothered me, and it's bothered several people that have looked at the ISS. When do you see an astronaut with a frickin' wrench or any tool for that matter? They should be working. There should be dedicated guys up there working on things, like you said, all the time. There should be a maintenance sheet. In fact, any Navy guy will tell you this. On a Navy ship, you're always working on stuff. Always, always, always. And yet the only thing you see is these guys floating around in their khakis and their polo shirts and their socks. Yeah. Not a care in the world. You know, it drives me insane. Not to mention the little thing, like somebody mentioned, it's like, look, you get a micrometeor, again, if you believe in space, the size of a nickel that punches into that, you're doomed. You could say you can say what you want about patching something, but if it's negative, whatever, let's say it's -9 torr outside that space station, that's it. it is over.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah. And then the job I'm doing right now, ironically, I'm actually, we're working on some, I can't disclose what, but we're working on something for solar panels, and we actually test those solar panels. And let me tell you, those things are fragile. I mean, really fragile.
So even the tiniest space rock, and they're
yeah. If you dropped your cell phone on them, they'd break.
Wow,
but
that is
I'm sure they put some kind of a coating, or not coating.
Oh, sure.
But still, they're very sensitive. Any banging around, those things would be history.
Yeah. We don't even have. Let's pick on ISS a little bit more. I'm going to pretend I'm Jaron tonight, because Jaron loves tearing apart NASA, and that is, we don't even have a rough cut time lapse of the assembly of the space station.
No, and can you? Okay, let's go into SEALs again.
Yeah.
Okay, on that level, you have to be so absurdly clean when you're sealing up that high of a vacuum level. It's not even funny. Yeah. Just to give you an idea, if you have your stupid fingerprint left inside like a chamber, it'll come as what they call a virtual leak, because the outgassing from the oils on that print introduces more atoms into that chamber, and you will see it not be able to pump down, all because of a stupid little fingerprint.
Wow.
It's insane. But if you have like a little tiny hair or a little tiny speck of dust on the O-ring, and you think it's clean, we've wiped it down with IPA, isopropanol, and we put it in there with the vacuum grease and sealed it up, and then you go to pump it down, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's not pumping down. You take it back apart, and this is in a clean room. You've got the full bunny suit on, gloves, hairnet, glasses, mouth guard, the whole nine, and you still can't be clean enough. It's insane. And sometimes you have to, and you've got to replace those O-rings constantly. We have a healthy supply of those O-rings around because they constantly need to be changed.
Yeah. I know, and the industrial valve guy that I talked to 2 years ago said in his statement the same thing, which was there's so much maintenance, and the tolerances, when you're the O-rings and when you're fitting the doors, the tolerances are so extreme that there is no margin for error ever, to where you're constantly machining new parts, constantly adjusting seals, and we never ever see that ever. Well, heck, let's go the opposite direction. We never even see him close a freaking hatch.
No.
In the military submarines, and we've all seen it in the movies and documentaries, you walk through one section, you close the door behind you, and you go to the next section, because if there's a leak, you don't want the whole submarine to go down. The ISS apparently is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Where they need, but I get it, because if you're going to do filming and you want to make sure there's as much uninterrupted footage as possible, you need these guys floating through multiple sections. And that gives the illusion that everything's great and everything's cool, and we can just ship things up there instead of shipping O-ring parts, because every piece would be so meticulous and every piece would be padded so much and weigh so much, and yet they're being sent guitars, flutes, gorilla suits, every NFL jersey apparently from every team, because it was done before the playoffs even started. It's just mind blowing. Okay, anyway, what else you want to throw in there before eventually? I'm hoping we can take a few calls tonight. What else you got for me? Anything fun?
Let's see. I got to bag a little bit. I don't like bagging, but some people are just too easy.
What do you want to go after?
That Don Petit.
Okay.
What is his marketing? It's like he sounds like he's talking to kindergartners every time he talks.
Right.
It's like we're slow class or something.
Right. The man that said we lost the technology to go back to the moon. That
exactly.
Guy? Yeah.
He just drives me nuts listening to him.
I'm honestly embarrassed every time he gets on. It's like, that's the guy. That's your press secretary. That's who you want out in front of the cameras. because the way he's explaining it is not very. I mean, I know he seems sort of convinced. He's just reading. He's reading what they told him to, and he's like, I have no doubt he believes it, but it sounds so hollow from him.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, we just don't have the. Who he sounds like? He sounds like Marty McFly's dad in Back to the Future, in the first one. That's if you put Marty McFly's dad, McFly, you put him in front of the camera. That's what he kind of sounds like.
He'd probably be better than.
He'd probably be better.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's horrible. Who else do you want to go after? Anybody?
I want to talk a little bit more about the O-rings.
Okay.
Because there are many different kinds, and they manufacture them according to what you need. There's a permeability rating on them that will change according to the temperature that they're placed in, and the pressure that they're actually compressed will change as well. And basically, you've got like a nitrile, a Viton, a EPDM, silicone, neoprene, hydrogenated, and then there's a PTFE. And the one that has the greatest range, like from hot to cold, is good from negative 300 Fahrenheit to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So
that's quite a range.
That's a really none of the other ones are even remotely close. That's definitely the best one out of the lot for that type of O-ring. Yeah. But still, that's well under the range that we're supposed to be in the thermosphere.
Good point.
And then so most people are familiar with the standard, nitrile or rubberish silicone or neoprene O-rings, right?
Right.
Well, they actually have, when you get into ultra, like extreme high vacuum, you want to guess what the vacuum on the moon is?
Negative.
According to science.
Are we talking about torr? Measurements in torr now? Negative 10.
Negative 11.
Close.
Yeah, good guess. So anyway, they go into a different, when you get into that high, those other types start to become no good because the permeability of them, they just won't handle it. So what they actually have to do is go to soft metals.
Right.
So they'll use like a copper ring.
Yeah.
And the way it works, and they also use silver. Interestingly enough, the copper melts at 1984 Fahrenheit.
Right.
Silver melts at 1763.
Okay.
So the thing about these type of O-rings or gaskets are they're a one-use time. You can't reuse.
That's it. One and done.
Yes, melt it down, make another one.
Oh wow.
So the way they work is there's a channel and a knife. So the knife, you place the O-ring over that channel, and then the knife portion, which would be like on the lid, would press down into that, and that would create your seal. With the soft metals, it does better. But in order for those to work, the metal that it's connecting, like on the door and the base, those actually have to be highly polished. And that's how fine it has to be to contain that sort of a vacuum. I mean, it's insane.
That's amazing. That kind of reminds me of when you were saying you have to abandon one material for another. Most people know that your average Lamborghini, all the normal cars use rubber wheels. But when you get up to like rocket cars, like the cars that break the speed of sound, there is no rubber made that can handle those speeds because the centrifugal force just shreds them. They have to switch to ceramic wheels. If you're wondering what those are, it's basically rock. You basically having wheels made out of rock and hope to God your shock absorbers handle it. And you're basically talking Flintstone wheels because that way at least that they're not going to tear apart at the high RPMs. So
there's a good way to think about the ISS because I mean the pressure in the ISS compared to the atmospheric pressure around it is like many times greater than what a tire is. But have you ever seen a tire blow?
Yep.
Insane. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was going to say, would you mind if we took a couple calls before? Because we got about 10 minutes or so till the last break. Are you?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's take a few calls. I do not know what they're going to ask, but if I don't do this now, I'm going to catch some hell. And let's start with, let's do Dallas. And Dallas, Texas just dropped off the line. Beverly Hills, I see you. I am not going to grab you right this second. Let's pick up Washington, D.C. Wow, a lot of phone calls. Washington, D.C. Here we go. 202 area code. You're on with Strange World and Industrial Vacuum Expert. What's going on?
Hi, Mark. This is Tippy. Long stalking on the plane.
Hi.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm very good. You know what? The conversation is very technical right now, but
Yes.
I just want to cut it short.
You just wanted to what?
Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
I want to cut it short.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Big Bang Theory.
The Big Bang Theory. That's what you want to transition to right now. The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. So we talk about the ISS and the valves and the whoop and the what, whatever.
Right. Right.
How can something come from nothing?
I agree. I absolutely agree. There's an old saying which you throw it. You know,
from nothing.
I agree. Ask any scientist. You say, hey, I understand the Big Bang that you're trying to tell me, but what happened before the Big Bang? And that's where it all falls apart. They can't tell you. It's like, well, and what caused it? Well, we don't know, but it caused itself.
You know, I appreciate.
Go ahead.
I appreciate, the gentleman discussing the valves and the pipes and whatever.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I want to go back further.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
Nothing. There's a break coming on, Mark.
No, it's not coming on. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. As far as the Big Bang goes,
Okay.
what I will try to do, I will try to do a special show on the universe at large and the creation of the universe. I promise. I absolutely will do that. Unfortunately, I can't. And I love your question because it is a great question that's tied to flat Earth, which is, if flat Earth is real, then what happens to evolution? What happens to the Big Bang? And what caused the Big Bang? But we will save that for a show soon. But I appreciate you asking. I do.
Thank you. And I'm the one who got up in the middle of the night and walked into the kitchen and saw my parents, or heard my parents talking about, well, she's adopted.
I'm adopted too.
And that's how I got into flat Earth in 2015.
Nice. That's awesome. All right,
and I'm the only one from Washington, D.C. I'm in D.C.
All right.
And I haven't had no meetup or nothing in D.C.
Would you like a meetup?
You think because they're afraid of Trump?
You'd like a meetup? All right. Tell you what. Anyone out in DC, in the DC area, if you want to do a meetup, just email me, the restaurant or wherever you want to go to, bar. I don't care, and I will make a promo for you.
Oh, a bar is nice. Please.
I will. I promise. I did it to L.A. and then all of a sudden L.A. is full of that stuff now. So hopefully we can.
Thank you, Mark.
We're out there. All right. Any shout outs before I let you go?
The conference. Have you had a good night's sleep yet?
Yes, I've finally caught up my sleep since the conference. Yes, thank you.
God bless you, Mike.
All right. I will talk to you soon, okay?
Shona.
Bye. I'll see you.
Keep it flat, boo.
All right. Okay, let's pick up New York. 845 area code. You're probably going to be the last call before the break. Well, we'll see. Maybe. What's going on? Hey.
Hey, how are you? It's Mark from New York. How are you?
Hey, it's Mark from New York, the guy that makes me look bad.
No, not at all. Not at all. You're the man.
You're the one that
Jerry,
should.
you're pretty freaking awesome.
Well, you should have gone into radio, but I know you're doing a great job doing the firefighting thing, so that's respectable.
Yeah, I got a face for radio, no doubt.
No, not at all. So what's up? What's on your mind?
Oh man, I just wanted to say I am loving this conversation because you're just hitting on those physical things that people cannot dispute. Right. Oh my God, it's so frustrating because but you're presenting it in such a good way. I'm loving this. I'm loving it.
I'm glad. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just going to ask if you could talk a little bit more about the cupola stuff, because I've always looked at that and wondered, how in the hell does that stay sealed? With a crank that goes outside.
I got you. So so it's like a little hatch on a submarine, but yet it's in space. So how exactly does that work? Jerry, would you like to chime in at all? You want to reiterate anything?
Yeah. Basically, what happens is those O-rings, in theory, roll as it's turning. Well, anytime you move anything on something else, you've got friction. So, first and foremost, it would need to be lubricated constantly. Second of all, that pressure on those O-rings would not be a loose connection. It would have to be fairly tight. Probably extremely tight. When I would close up a chamber, for instance, we had one tool, you'd have to go down and you'd have a torque spec for that. And you would have to do it much like you do a car tire. You do the star pattern so that it all lays down evenly, so that there's not an uneven surface. And so those things have to be adhered to, or it's not going to seal up right. So to have something rolling at that high of a level is just ridiculous. There's no way in space that would work under that vacuum.
But it would work in an underwater training facility.
Exactly.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. It works in the pool. It does work in the pool.
It would work if James Cameron was directing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Or Michael Bay.
Yeah, if he was directing. Whoever's shooting this thing underwater.
Sorry.
I keep thinking when I keep watching the scenes of the ISS, because I know NASA steals from everybody steals from everybody else, but I keep thinking of the 1989 movie The Abyss, where James Cameron had to invent an underwater scene where he took these giant swimming pools, but they were outdoors, so they could lower stuff in really easily. And they filled the top of the pool with layers and layers of tiny black rubber balls to where it blocked out all light. And when he did that, it was amazing, because not only could you simulate underwater situations, but given the right lighting, you could also simulate space. So I thought it was really, really... Right. Hey, sorry, quote for you real quick, Mark, before I forget. This is from the Peanut Gallery.
For you. Actually, I have one for you, Jerry.
All right. The quote is, the obscure we see eventually. The completely obvious, it seems, takes longer. That's from Edward R. Murrow. So what do you got?
Nice. I got fantasy flows in where fact leaves a vacuum.
You actually looked up vacuum quotes?
Fantasy. Of course I did. Come on. Of course I did.
Nice.
And that was by Tom Stoppard. I don't know who he is.
Huh. Good. I wonder if these people actually know anything.
Yeah, of course I had to find you a vacuum quote. Come on.
Thank you.
I'm loving this. I really am. And I'll get off. I know you got other callers, but I just want to throw one more thing out there if you could touch on the spacesuits themselves. Why don't these guys look like the Michelin Man when they're out there?
All right, Jerry.
I was actually going to touch that topic.
Can you do it in 2 minutes before the break? Can you start it in 2 minutes before the break?
Yeah, I think so.
Go. Do it.
Yeah. From what I've seen, I don't know how you'd come up with a material that's stitched together, let alone just be a material that's not aluminum that would hold up to that kind of vacuum. I've never personally wanted to see how it would perform, but I don't see in my mind how that would work.
Wouldn't I mean if the torr is that high, the vacuum?
It would totally be the Stay Puft Marshmallow, and they, and their argument is, we pressurized the suit. Okay, so you're making it that much even greater because you're putting more pressure in there. So theoretically, that extra pressure should be pushing out on it even further because it's putting more force in the outward direction.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I totally believe it. Yeah. In fact,
awesome.
Wouldn't you have to treat it kind of like a deep diving suit where it's all metal, and very, very small sections of moving parts?
Yes. One of the, what was it, a gym diving suit, that big metal one with the
hooks,
rotating balls on it.
Everything is super heavy. Because I think you're right. What stitched material out there? What soft material can counteract a vacuum? Can counteract a -9, -10 vacuum force? How is it?
And then you look at all the seal points, the points for error. Seals. I mean, they've got like 4 cuff lengths of seals at different locations just in one arm alone. You got the glove, you got the elbow, you got there's like a center cap that connects the arm and the shoulder together, and then the helmet. It's like and then they kind of brush over the pants section and the shoe, so you don't quite see what's going on. It's they put flat over things.
We're going to break right now. We'll be back in 3 minutes, guys.
They must be using space. They must be using space Velcro.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
I'm Markksargent, and this is Strange World, and that was Joe Jackson stepping out from his album Night and Day. We got subject matter expert tonight, industrial vacuums to be more specific. But first, a couple shameless plugs. Check out enclosedworld.com, and if you're doing a meetup, there's a special new thing on enclosedworld.com where you can go to the forums, and there's a folder for every state. So if you want to do a meetup in your state and you haven't done one yet, well, by all means, log in and say, hey, I want to do a meetup. And then, you probably also want to email me if you want me to do the promo. But if you don't want me to do the promo, you just want to do it yourself, just post in there. And it's not, it's not a flat earth meetup matchup thing, but it's something. Anyway. And also, I'm going to be, remember, tomorrow at Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, a secret show. Episode 200. Can you believe it? It's gone by that fast. Since 2015, 200 episodes. Pretty amazing. And the Peanut Gallery is chiming in before I get back to my subject matter. 5 p.m. Central. No, I'm not going to say Central and Mountain. No. Nobody says those time zones anymore. They only say Pacific and Eastern. In fact, your average American, and I've touched on this several times before because I used to work in the time and attendance industry, does not even know how many time zones there are in the country. Jerry, how many time zones are there? Quick, on the spot. Don't look it up.
4.
There's 4. Most people think there's 3. And you know there's 4. It's a little cheat, actually, because you know there's 4 because you're the one that everyone forgets. Back in the day, I don't know how old you are, but back in the day when they announced things, they'd say, like 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And that was it. So people say, there's only 3 time zones. No, there's mountain time.
Mountain out over here.
Yeah, mountain time zone. You got Salt Lake City, you got Denver, and I think you got something in Texas. There's not a lot out there. It's really not much. So anyway, we are taking calls, and we're talking to Jerry about stuff. Let's grab... Oh, for the love of God, let's pick up Beverly Hills. Here we go. Beverly Hills, California. I know you've been waiting for a while. Don't know if you're listening or you're smoking or whatever. What's going on, guys?
What's up, guys? Hey, I actually had a question. This is Andy from Beverly Hills, of course.
Hey, Andy. Is Ross with you?
I had a question.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, just checking.
So I brought this up on the show before, and it's such a weird thing. I can't seem to reconcile.
What?
Why, you know how these guys are going up for 6 to 8 months on the ISS apparently or whatever.
Right.
They're going up for like 6 and 8 months at a time.
Oh yeah.
What the heck? Because they can't risk going out in public. They couldn't possibly risk going out in public during that time.
Right.
So where the hell are these guys going? Is that what they're doing with all our money? They're going like the Bahamas for like.
Oh no! It's easier than that. Think about it, man. Okay, gotta remember, everybody that's up there. I'm sorry, I'm saying it like it's a real thing. Everybody that says they're going up there, they are members of the United States Air Force. Plain and simple, they are all military. So. And they're under orders. You don't have to be nice with them. It's like, look, you're going to stay at one of our special Air Force bases, not necessarily Area 51 or anything like that, but at an Air Force base, you're confined to this barrack area. You have access to the gym. You have access to computers and television and movies and all the things you want.
Cafeteria, right?
And the the cafeteria would be limited. You'd probably, how
about their families? Like, how about Gabby Giffords? Where's Gabby Giffords when Mr. Kelly's going up there and playing around?
You don't.
Does she know where he is or not?
No, you don't have to tell her. I mean, you could, I suppose, if you want, but remember, you don't. Compartmentalization says that it's a need-to-know basis. So unless you can think of a good reason why Gabby should know, let her believe the illusion. Why not? Have her do the video calls. Oh, look, I'm floating in space and CGI and all that. Why not?
Right.
You just keep. But
you think they have the ability to fake all that wherever he's being kept. Since they do some live stuff, that means that they must have the ability to fake something wherever they're keeping these guys.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're in a live exercise. They're like living in a live exercise.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry.
And you've seen that video where the guy flubs up and says, "Over here where we are," and they're on the East Coast.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beforehand, in fact, it's way easier to fake it now than it used to be. Beforehand, you could mix some CGI with some of the zero-G planes. But now they've figured out that they can do almost all CGI now. And it's pretty good stuff. It's not perfect, and I really don't think they should do live feeds where they're talking to school kids because it is not flawless. I know
You mean to where their whole bodies are CGI, you're saying?
Well, not their whole bodies, but the background around them. It's Hollywood can do a lot of things, and we can do some decent live stuff, but it's not perfect. So yes, the short answer is you can fake quite a bit of this.
They've been caught on that many a time. They've been caught on that many a times. You can see the glitches. Really quick, has someone actually been out there when and followed like a spacecraft? Like, I'm sure it has to, or a spacecraft. It's funny how you get programmed with these words, but I guess an airplane. What are they flying up a glider or something? Does it come down? I mean, what is it? Landing? Like, I don't know.
It's in the middle of the ocean. That's why we can't get there.
What are we talking? Oh no! It's to quote a line from Mission Impossible.
When they shoot off.
Oh, okay, well, just the regular rockets. I mean, when they're first? No, they're arcing over and dumping them into the ocean. In fact, look up a thing called the Space Graveyard, which is every place that even NASA will tell you. It's like, oh yeah, our boosters we dump out into a very remote spot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And what we're saying is, no, they're dumping.
Hold on a second. Would that mean? Hold on. Would that mean that there's? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but would that mean that when you see the space shuttle attached to a freaking rocket, okay?
Right.
Everyone's in the flat Earth is saying that there's no one on that space shuttle right there that's attached vertically to that rocket. So
right.
They're not there, right?
Shuttle that means they're dumping the whole shuttle in the middle of the ocean?
You may not have. Go ahead, Jerry.
Has anyone seen
what they're doing is flying it to a remote location.
Yeah. You might remember our remote capabilities are way better.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So you could remote. Remember, like jet airplanes now, the planes you fly on, they can fly remotely now. The only problem is you won't be able to get anyone to board that plane because everybody wants a freaking pilot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's Skynet may be a real thing, but like even me, I'd be like pretty hesitant if there was nobody in the cockpit, even if they're not doing it. So So you could land stuff. You could land the shuttle somewhere if you wanted to save it. If you were trying to, cut back a little bit on the funds, you don't have to. I suppose you could dump it if you wanted to, if it was just a hollow piece of crap. But you could also land it if you wanted
like someone would touch it, Right.
Yeah. Or
it seems like someone would have caught that on camera or something. Like it land or it goes horizontal. They caught it. Like it goes horizontal. We know that. Right?
Yeah. But no, because it goes over the ocean. Eventually you're not going to be able to track it anymore. And NASA has gotten real sneaky.
Yeah.
And you can look up DITRH's videos where once it starts going horizontal, they switch over to the computer generated. This is what the rocket is doing, and it's obvious CGI. It's blatantly horrible CGI, and they're just saying, okay, this is what's happening. It's like, okay, we're going to watch that.
You know what?
Can we all agree that there's never anyone attached? Can we all agree that there's never anyone inside a shuttle when it's attached to one of those giant classic?
Look, the last thing you would ever want to do is put some person at the top of a pile of liquid explosives. That's something you don't do. Which is why the Challenger turned out to be kind of a problem, because that thing blew up and you had to do something with the people. And it's like, okay, let's just relocate.
Hey, Mark,
right. Go ahead.
I wanted to tell you something. My dad actually used to work for NASA.
Really?
And he was like, yeah, he worked for NASA. He was really good at mathematics, so he got some some kind of scholarship and he got like top secret clearance.
Yeah.
And he used to do the wires down in the bottom. And he said he used to watch, down at the bottom of the spacecraft, he put together these wires apparently. And
cool.
He was telling me he would watch, really cool. But he what I thought was really interesting was that he said when you got up, if you'd go up there, but where you could actually board this supposed aircraft, spacecraft or whatever. But he says there's a couple guys guarding it with a big shotgun. He's just sitting there. No one comes in around.
I bet.
Yeah, no, straight up. That's what my dad tells me. And he told me, and he saw it blasting off from one of those bunkers, because you can get into those bunkers.
Yeah.
And he had top secret clearance there. And he told me it blew up. When he left, he goes, someone must have not plugged in one of those things. It's just kind of you never really could figure anything out though, because I was really asking him about it. I'm like, you work there? I'm like, I don't know. And he was showing me the SpaceX stuff that I thought was very interesting. Have you guys heard of what's his name? Tesla was doing by landing a refueling rocket. What was it? Setting up a rocket I guess it would somehow fly up to a satellite, give them something, refuel them, and then they would come back down without having to get rid of the rocket.
Right. Yeah, the reusable. Right? Oh, the thing by Elon Musk's team. Yeah, SpaceX. Yeah.
That's a bunch of crap, right? You guys saw that. It just all of a sudden landed. I watched it.
That landing looks so damn fake.
Oh,
it was hard.
You saw that? It just shifted all of a sudden. It was landed, and of course, we did it. It was the most. Even my dad. I'm like, Dad, what was that? Come on, man.
Nice. All right, man. I
mean, it's just blatant.
I agree. Hey, I've got to jump to another call. But you guys, if you want to jump back in the queue, I don't think you're probably going to make it. I got a slew of calls still I got to grab. But thank you guys for holding on for as long as you did. Okay.
With us, man.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.
Stay cool in Beverly Hills. All right. Here we go. Let's pick up. Let's jump right over to Twin Cities, Minnesota. 612 area code. You're on with Strange World's industrial vacuum expert night. What's going on?
Hey, Mark. West State's Flat Earth News Talk. Wait for it.
Wes,
there we go.
Why do you insist on calling my show every week? I do not.
Oh, I don't know. Just torment.
It is torment.
And you got
What's up?
I was the guy that came down in the middle of the night and overheard my parents saying he's not adopted. I think maybe they just wanted to make sure that, I actually have good parents and not bad parents, whatever.
It's funny.
Stupid joke.
I have a quote for you.
Mark from New York, he does have a great radio voice. I'm kind of holding out for the reality show. So,
all right. Then heck, who knows?
Yeah,
With this,
okay.
with flat
Here's the
Earth,
thing.
it could happen.
Yeah. Anyhow, nice to meet you, Gary.
Wait! Don't go!
been
Wait! Don't
listening
go! Don't go! I've got a quote for you.
No, I'm not going to go. I was ready to say something.
Oh, okay. What is it?
What I was going to say is that I love everything that you guys are talking about with the ISS and everything, but nobody ever stops and thinks.
Yeah.
They say that thing is traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, and the heat is 17,000 degrees.
Right.
I'm sorry, people. Logic would say that metal melts at 2,000 degrees.
Right.
Hello.
I agree. Combine that with a vacuum of
So it kind
space.
of blows everything else out of the water.
Yep. There's nobody up there. They'd all be dead. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. The quote of the day from the Peanut Gallery, especially for Wes from Flat Earth News: believe those who are seeking the truth, doubt those who find it. That's from Andre Guide, G-I-D-E, Guide. I'm going to say Guide.
Oh, very wise coat.
I thought so. Anything else?
All right, well, cool. No, that was it. I was just say hi to everybody.
All right, man. Hey, you have a good rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yep, and I'll continue to torture you every week.
Thank you, Wes. So kind.
You're welcome. Later, dater.
See ya. That's Wes calling from what I assume is a prison cafeteria where he's using his one call for the day. Let's go to 512 area code. I believe that's out in Texas. What's going on?
Hey, Mark. Hey, Jerry. How you guys doing?
Hey, it's Chip Baker.
It is Chip Baker. How you guys doing? One subject I had not heard mentioned tonight was how does refrigeration, climate control relate to a vacuum? Wouldn't they effectively be just in the middle of a big thermos bottle in our infinite vacuum of space, alleged? And then, how do you transfer the heat? We've heard the story of, the astronauts, I guess, sublimating water out of the back of their backpacks, to create that differential. But I still haven't heard it from anybody, a vacuum expert. Let's talk, refrigeration, climate control.
What you got, Jerry? You got anything?
I didn't have to do a lot of climate control with what I had. We had a bake-out process that we would actually use to help bring the chamber into vacuum because, say I would clean a thing or wipe a chamber down with IPA, that would still leave some moisture in there, and we would bake it out to help speed up the process because that would severely dampen the pump down time. Pump down time was huge in the semiconductor industry, but I didn't do. I don't want to touch into an area that I really didn't deal with.
Okay,
that's right.
I wasn't in HVAC, where I was doing heating and cooling scenarios, so I can't speak a lot.
Sure. I just heard. Yeah. I heard a guy who called in on Mark's show. He had referred to himself as being a refrigeration technologist, and he was also questioning, where does heat go if it isn't truly a vacuum? And don't, as kids, don't we get that? I'm old enough to remember the actual glass vacuum bottle you'd have, with that little glass piece. You could actually replace that if it broke. You could pull that out, put it back in, and your soup would be hot all day, or your whatever you had to keep cold all day. Wouldn't I've heard that, I don't know if this is accurate, but the human body puts out something the equivalent of a 100-watt bulb. Now you got a number of astronauts in there. It's just going to continue to heat up. And I remember, and this is many years back, because NASA's been pulling this garbage for years. But there was something about the air conditioning had failed, of course, and the astronauts were getting all hot. And and then at the same time they're telling us about Apollo 13, they're freezing. Then you got the whole rotisserie thing where we spin we're spinning the capsule, keep it. It's like it's a rotisserie. I spin my chicken, it cooks on all sides, So some of this stuff ends up, just the same ludicrous, transparent stuff that they spin to us. And I think they're just really counting on the fact that people are lazy. No one's going to, they're just used to getting their news, oh, sure, this is what it is. Here's Mars, Pluto on, the picture of Pluto on Pluto, just gotten pretty ludicrous, as it were.
Right.
Well,
go ahead, Jay.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, we did I don't know if you heard that talk earlier, and I don't know which aspect you were questioning, but, as your vacuum does go down, boiling point's definitely lower in temperature. So yeah, but you got to realize that chamber is, maintaining atmospheric pressure. So, inside it wouldn't necessarily be affected. I think the only thing that would is if that sun's hitting, the way they say it hits, they should have some pretty serious heating and cooling problems if things work the way they say they do.
Right. And you got a big question here because go ahead, Chip.
Oh, I was going to ask a slightly unrelated question. You had mentioned guitar manufacturers of tube amplifiers, and I just wanted to know what the torque level over the average vacuum tube was.
That's a good question.
I gotta look that one up. Okay, while you're looking up.
Well, I know what a TV is.
Oh, what's TV tube?
The old cathode ray TVs were -7 torque.
Right.
Oh.
Okay. So got it. One other thing, Mark, I wanted to mention this, something you had mentioned a couple shows back, and you were talking about the metric system, and how in America, we were just holding on to the English system.
Yeah.
I want to make one point that the metric system, the meter was derived from the measurement of the so-called, ball earth from the pole to the equator from a meridian that ran right through Paris, which is 1/10,000,000th of that distance. So the metric system is entirely ball earth derived. Whereas if you look at the, say, English system, it was the cubit, it was the human body. The inch was the length of a digit in your fingers, or roughly so, and weights
and
and
the
measures
foot,
and so forth.
and
One appears more divinely, referred to, and the other one is clearly based entirely on the ball earth. So that's more meat to chew on, if you will.
I have not heard anyone mention that. That's fantastic. That the metric system is based on the sphere measurement, and the other system, whatever you want to call it, is based on us. That's great.
Yeah.
That.
So that's another, like I said, more arrows into the fire, if you will.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
All
you know
right,
me, I love arrows into the fire.
I will say that this vacuum thing has always sat with me because the idea of an infinite vacuum, and Mark mentioned the Michelin Man thing. Ralph Renee, God bless him, before he passed away, did a video in which he put a rubber glove, and he built his own vacuum chamber, and he put his hand in. He said it was like steel. He said he could absolutely not move that glove. So wouldn't a high vacuum like that make these things into essentially rigid structures, right?
Absolutely, yes. And that, you got to realize that wasn't even down to 1 torque. And you're not even in the ballpark of what the vacuum of space is. I mean, you have no comprehension how radical that vacuum is. I mean, you look at the chambers.
Well, they're telling us if you talk about an infinite space, the vacuum would have to be near infinite, by definition. Any equation you function, you put infinity into is going to kind of level that equation right out off the bat, I would think.
Well, here's
all
what
right, Mark. Great talking to you guys.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. Any shout outs before you go?
Oh, no, everybody out there, everybody likes to hear Mark's voice. He's got a great tone of voice. Wes, God bless him. Let's hope he gets on parole soon and, gets out on the streets. I love the phrase Pat Earth. Patricia, that's fantastic. And once again, the conference was fantastic. I'm sorry I missed it, but, I watched every single instant of it, absorbed everything, all the media, every last bit of it. So, it was a win-win for everybody.
Right on, man. Cool. I'm sure you and I will run into each other. Go ahead.
Well, you know what? Tell Pat to have a meetup. We'll fly you down. All right.
Okay.
All right. You have a good one, Mark.
All right. See you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right. That was Chip Baker. Let's do a quick recap. And I want to tell a quick story before we go as well, which is I was thinking about something before I went to the conference. And it was about, because people are saying, are you launching this big war against science? And I'm saying, no, I'm not. We all work with science every day, and there's some really great stuff that has come from science. What I don't like, and Robbie Davidson touched on this, was the idea of scientism, where science starts to make leaps of faith where they shouldn't. The biggest, of course, is that Neil deGrasse Tyson said that science is true whether you believe in it or not. And I thought that was one of the most arrogant things I've ever heard. And if Neil is ever listening to this, or any other scientist for that matter, let me throw out another name for you, which, in fact, you, Jerry, may know this name, and that is Kelvin.
Yep.
William Kelvin. I got to mention this guy because he sticks out like a sore thumb in the world of physics. And that is William Kelvin, who was raised in England, and he is the father of thermodynamics. Anyone that knows anything, you've wondered, it's like, where have I heard that name before? Absolute temperatures are measured in Kelvin. Yep. He was at the top of his game. He was knighted. He was absolutely, he blew Neil deGrasse Tyson out of the water in terms of accomplishments. Maybe not movie roles, but definitely accomplishments. Neil deGrasse Tyson can't hold a candle to him. Physicists use this guy's name in every university every single day. And yet, at the top of his career, when he was addressing all sorts of things like the Royal Society, he came out and said that heavier than air flight will never, ever happen. He also said that balloons are the only thing you're ever going to get up there, and he has no faith, not one molecule of faith, and notice how he said that, in the Aeronautical Society. And this was not something that was done a long time ago. He did not say this in the 1600s or the 1700s. He said this in 1900. And a few years later, they started building airplanes. Now, did he know that the internal combustion engine was going to make huge leaps and they were going to figure out a way to make heavier than air flight? No, he did not. But the point was he made the statement and he had no right saying it. And he was 100% positively, absolutely wrong. So when Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out and says that science is right, no matter what, has no credibility whatsoever. Anyway, that being said, Jerry, would you like to plug anything before we let you go? Because unfortunately, the show is coming to a close.
Yeah, I'm going to be...
Go ahead.
Oh, I said I'm getting ready to do a series. I decided after doing this show, I'm going to do a one, and I'm going to call it NASA Pass or Fail.
Nice. That's awesome.
All right.
That's awesome.
And basically, I'm going to treat them like they're my student. And we're going to run them through scientific tests and say pass or fail. We'll go over the seals and all different kinds of things.
That's great. I'm looking forward. Is that going to be on your Globe Vandal?
Yeah, Globe Vandal Damaz. And check out the other two because I've got like 4 or 5 videos on there, I think. But the good ones are the Real Men of Genius. Mm-hmm. They're pretty funny. They're just short, like 2-minute videos. They get the point across in a humorous way that, you know, that one way or another you'll enjoy it even if you don't believe it. So
awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Sounds fun. And thank you for coming on and thank you for reaching out. I was looking for a subject matter expert, and it was a great month for Flat Earth between the Boston Celtics and Mad Mike and the Rocket. Hopefully don't crash. I'm crossing my fingers. And the conference, and what else happened this week? There's something else I was going to do. Oh, and Patricia Steer's 200th episode, which I'm going to be on tomorrow. Anyway, we're heading out of here. Say goodbye, Jerry.
Goodbye. Once again, take a look at my NASA's Mars Picture Taker Guide by the Globe Vandal. Thanks for having fun and have a good night.
All right. I'll be here next week. Same flat time, same flat channel. See you, everybody. Stay on for a sec, Jerry.
What is this? Is that a model of the flat geocentric Earth? Nice.
I'd make a new one. What are you doing?
Dancing in the